Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today is February 3rd, 2025. We're going to be looking at some pretty wild stuff happening right now with politics and tech.
It's really wild how fast things are moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically, we're going to be taking a deep dive into Elon Musk's growing influence on the political scene.
It's really fascinating to see him go from this innovator to a major player in politics so quickly. It's like...
It feels like just yesterday we were talking about electric cars and space travel.
Right.
And now he's like right in the thick of it. You know, like...
Right in the thick of U.S. policy.
U.S. policy decisions.
No way.
So we've got 3 Videntis articles to guide our deep dive today. Each one kind of offers a different piece of this puzzle.
Yeah.
The first one is Elon Musk advances political engagement through innovation and influence.
Okay.
Then we have Musk's team seizes control over federal payment systems. And lastly, Trump's America First policy slashes African aid, creating funding vacuum.
Wow. So we're covering a lot of ground here. This first article, I think, lays some really good groundwork.
Okay.
It shows just how fast and how deep Musk's political involvement has become. He endorsed Trump a while back, and now he's like running this new government group called the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE for short.
Yeah, DOGE, kind of catchy, right?
Yeah, it is.
But like, this isn't just some honorary title.
Oh, no.
We're talking about
That's the real deal.
the world's richest person, worth over $400 billion.
Yeah.
With like a direct line to the White House.
Yeah.
And actually shaping policy. And that's not even mentioning his platform on X, formerly Twitter.
Right, which reaches, what, 211 million followers?
Yeah, 211 million followers.
That's a lot of influence.
That's a lot of influence in one person.
Yeah.
And the article says it's not just theoretical. Like,
No.
he's got an office.
He's in the
White House
park.
complex.
Yeah, and he's actually involved in crafting policy. One example is this plan to incentivize federal employees to resign.
Wow.
Yeah, think about that. Potentially millions of jobs affected.
So he's not just, like offering advice from the sidelines.
Oh, no.
He's in the mix.
He's rolling up his sleeves and getting right in there.
Do you think that's causing some issues with the Trump administration? I mean, like...
Oh, absolutely. The article even says some officials are furious over this. They think he's overstepping. They think he has too much power. It's definitely created some tension there.
So you've got Musk, this like tech titan who suddenly is like at the center of political power, and he's like ruffling feathers, causing disruption within the system he's trying to influence. It's pretty fascinating stuff.
It's fascinating, a little unnerving,
Yeah. A little unnerving for sure.
Yeah.
And the second article we're going to get to, that takes us even deeper.
Oh, really?
Because this one highlights DOGE's control over federal payment systems.
Yeah.
And this is where I think things start to get a little concerning.
Yeah, definitely. This isn't just influence anymore. This is about direct control over really essential parts of the government. They have access to databases and payment systems that handle, get this, $6 trillion every year.
$6 trillion.
$6 trillion.
Yeah.
It's a crazy amount of money.
And it's like they're not exactly being careful with it, are they?
Well, the article kind of suggests that, yeah, like career civil servants are being sidelined, security officials are getting in trouble for questioning DOGE's access to sensitive information. It's like, what are the implications of that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if those experienced officials are being pushed aside, who's making the decisions then? I mean, are there any checks and balances in place? And what about the cybersecurity risks? Like, what if unauthorized people are accessing classified information? What does that mean for national security?
Right, exactly. All very valid questions. And we can't forget about the immediate consequences of this.
Like what?
Well, Treasury payments have been halted.
Oh, wow.
So you've got federal contractors who aren't getting paid, delays in Social Security and Medicare, even tax refunds are being held up.
So it's like the gears of government are grinding to a halt. And people's lives are being affected because of it.
Absolutely. It's a real mess. Yeah, and it's happening at the same time as this major shift in U.S. foreign policy, too, like that third article.
Oh, yeah. We can't forget about that. Trump's America First policy and the impact on U.S. foreign aid, especially to Africa.
Yeah, and this policy is causing a lot of uncertainty and raising concerns about the stability of the whole region. Like, the article mentions these aid programs that have been abruptly halted, affecting all kinds of things from disease response to girls' education programs, even free school lunches for over 100,000 students have been stopped.
It's crazy to think about the scale of the impact. Like, imagine those kids who rely on those lunches every day. And for some African countries, aid has been cut by something like 50%. And that's not just a number, it's a lifeline being cut off. What happens long term because of that?
Well, one big concern is that other countries are going to step in where the U.S. has pulled back. The article specifically mentions China as a possible player.
So it's not even just about budget cuts, it's about like global power dynamics shifting, right?
Exactly. If China starts providing aid where the U.S. used to, that could change alliances and influence in the whole region.
So we've got these three things all happening at once. Musk's rise to power, DOGE, and the payment systems, and then Trump's America First policy and the ripple effects from that. Each one is a big deal on its own, but together it paints a pretty unsettling picture, doesn't it?
It really does. It makes you think about what all this means for the future. What are the long-term consequences of these changes, both here in the U.S. and around the world?
Right, and this isn't just some theoretical discussion. This is about real people's lives. When those Treasury payments are stopped, it means families are struggling to pay bills. When aid to Africa gets cut, it means children go hungry.
You're right. It's easy to get caught up in the big picture, but we have to remember these decisions have consequences for people on the ground.
And it makes you wonder about accountability. Like, who's responsible when things go wrong? Is it Musk and DOGE, the Trump administration? Or is it so tangled up that you can't even tell?
That lack of clarity is definitely a problem. In a democracy, transparency and accountability are essential. When those things are missing, people lose trust and start to feel powerless.
Yeah, I can see that. It feels like things are changing so fast.
Yeah.
And it's hard to even understand what it all means. It's like we're all on this train that's speeding up and we don't know where it's going.
That's a good analogy. The speed of these changes is unlike anything we've seen before. It's hard for individuals, institutions, even whole countries to adapt.
So what can we even do? Is there any way to push back against these changes, or are we just stuck along for the ride?
Well, it's not hopeless. The fact that people are raising concerns both inside the government and out in the public is a good sign. The article talks about career civil servants and security officials who are fighting back against DOGE's power grab.
So there are some checks and balances still in place.
Yeah, there are, and there's also the potential for Congress to get involved and maybe even some legal challenges.
Okay.
The article mentions that Democratic lawmakers are demanding answers, and they're worried about the erosion of civil service protections, too.
So it's not over yet. There's
Sure.
still room for things to change.
Yeah,
But it seems like a lot depends on whether the public even knows what's going on.
exactly. If
Yeah.
people don't understand what's happening and why it matters, it's hard to fight back.
That's why platforms like the Videntis are so important.
Absolutely. They give people the information they need to make informed decisions and hold those in power accountable.
You know what they say, knowledge is power.
It really is. Especially now with all this rapid change and uncertainty, it's more important than ever to stay informed and keep talking about these things.
And it's not just about reading the news either. It's about like really thinking critically about it, challenging assumptions, questioning the status quo.
Yeah, we can't just accept these changes as inevitable. We have to ask ourselves, are these changes good for us? Are they good for democracy? And if not, what are we going to do about it?
Those are some pretty big questions, and I think we all need to be thinking about them. The choices we make now will shape the world for years to come, and not just for us either. Those students in Africa who are losing their education because of these policy changes, their future is on the line too.
You're right. This isn't just an American story, it's a global one. What happens in Washington affects people all over the world. It's a reminder that we're all connected and our actions have consequences.
It all comes back to Elon Musk in a way. He's this larger-than-life figure who represents this moment in time where technology and politics are clashing. He has the power to change governments, change global politics, even change what we think is possible. It's exciting and scary all at the same time.
It is, and it brings up some really important questions about wealth and power in a democracy. Should one person, no matter how smart or innovative they are, have this much influence? Where do we draw the line between business and government?
Those are some tough questions. I feel like we're in uncharted territory here. The old rules might not apply anymore. It's like we're living in a science fiction novel where technology, politics, and individual power are all mixed up.
It's a story that's still being written, and it's up to all of us to decide how it ends.
So going back to what we were talking about before, what do you think is going to happen with Elon Musk and his political ambitions? Will he keep getting more powerful, or will there be some kind of backlash? Will he use his power for good or for bad?
I don't know what the future holds, but we can learn from history. We can stay informed about what's happening now, and we can have these conversations about the kind of world we want to live in.
Well said. So that wraps up our deep dive into Elon Musk's growing political influence. We talked about his rise to power, his team's control over those payment systems, and the effects of Trump's America First policy all over the world.
It's been a fascinating and sometimes disturbing look at how technology, politics, and individual power are all coming together.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Don't forget you can find those articles we talked about on the Videntis website, along with other great content.
And please share your thoughts on social media using hashtag Videntis Podcast. Let's keep this conversation going.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged.